How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Dan Morley Boxing Podcast. Before I get started, I just want to give my sponsors a shout out. A big shout out to Henderson Plastering and Rendering, RT Painting, and Active Trades. These guys are really helping me out to be able to produce top quality content consistently and supporting my career. The link to their social media and their websites is in the bio, so make sure you give them a little bit of love, and let's crack on. Right, firstly, I'm going to touch upon the heavyweight fight that's just happened on the weekend. Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. And obviously on the undercard, we had Zhilei Zhang versus Joseph Parker. Now, in regards to Joshua versus Ngannou, if I'm honest with you, I'd always anticipated that Joshua was going to blast him out. I'd always told people, and there seems to be people jumping on the bandwagon of hating Joshua in recent years, which ironically, since he's looked good in his last two fights, is going the other way. But I just always thought that it was a bit of a flash in the pan with Ngannou, and I have to give him massive credit. I think he's an amazing athlete, and I think his story as a human being is just incredible, coming from where he's come from to achieve what he has. But when you're stepping in with world-level boxers as a boxing novice at the highest level in pro fights, it's hard, man. It's hard. It's, there's levels, and I always saw little holes in Ngannou's game that I thought Joshua would be able to exploit. And you can give the argument that, well, Fury wasn't able to do it, but I do think there was a major shock factor with the Fury fight, and I think Fury massively underestimated him. You cannot take anything away from Ngannou's performance because he was sensational, and just to be able to go 10 rounds with the best heavyweight in the world, one of the best heavyweights in the world, depending on how you look at it, it's phenomenal. But I thought Fury's style, being a bit more of a boxer mover, in recent years he's become a bit of a puncher, but I don't know if he is an actual formidable puncher. He obviously is very big, he wears people down, he obviously hits hard, but compare that to a Joshua who is a bona fide puncher. I just thought that Joshua's style would work him out, and Joshua absolutely blasted him away. It was one of the most brutal knockouts I've seen in years. I was actually like, whoa, when it happened. I watched it with my granddad. But yeah, to be honest with you, I think I don't see the appeal in these crossover fights. I never have. The whole McGregor-Mayweather thing, I saw that because I was a big McGregor fan when he was coming up, and there was intrigue, and it hadn't really been done. But since then, I guess you could say the Ngannou fight was pretty close, but I wouldn't say it was a classic fight. I just don't get the whole hype in regards to crossover fights. I don't get why there's beef between boxing and MMA communities. I'm a professional boxer. If you got an MMA guy in with me, the chances are I'd probably school him and knock him out. And if I went into an octagon, he would absolutely fucking maul me because I don't know what I'm doing. So I think it's had its moment now, in my opinion. But as long as it's a money spinner, it's going to continue. We've just seen Jake Paul announce the fight fucking Mike Tyson, so anything can happen. But Joshua's looking really good. I think he's a threat, man. And I've been the first to criticize his performances, but only on a performance basis. The Robert Helenius fight, I thought he was very, very hesitant. He wasn't getting his feet in. There seemed to be something mentally not there until he got his feet in and landed the shot. The Jermaine Franklin fight, I thought that was quite a good workman performance coming back after the loss. But ever since he landed that Helenius punch, something's switched and he's back to the old AJ. And I really do think he is a threat. And I hate it when people write off fighters when they take losses. Now, don't get me wrong. If you've lost to people you shouldn't be losing to, back to back to back, then you can understand why. But Joshua has only ever shown a willingness to fight the best, and he's only ever lost to the very best. Alexander Usyk is one of the greatest heavyweights of recent years. He's one of the greatest fighters in the world. He isn't huge for a heavyweight, but he's going to go down as a Hall of Famer, and he's class, and he could even beat Tyson Fury. So losing back to back to him, there's no shame in that. What the shame would be avoiding him, not taking the mandatory and losing the belt. But he stepped up. He lost back to back. He tried. And then Andy Ruiz, that was a different one as well, because Andy Ruiz was obviously fat and coming in on late notice. But anyone that knew boxing knew he was a threat, knew that he'd given Joseph Parker a really, really hard fight, and probably beat Joseph Parker, if I'm honest with you, for the world title before the Joshua fight. And, it was a classic fight. It was exciting. Joshua got stopped, but he's learned from that. He's come back and beat Ruiz. And ultimately, you kind of can link it to Joseph Parker as well on the undercard. Now, I've got to say, talking to that fight, I was expecting Zhang to go in and win, but I thought it'd be a very tough fight because Parker's on a very good run of form. And I wasn't mightily impressed with Zhang. I'm a massive Zhang fan because I just like his personality. And I think I like his style as well. I think he was robbed against Hrgovic, and I think he beat Joyce in extremely dominant and exciting fashion. But yeah, I don't think he approached that fight too well. He didn't look in great shape. He came in extremely heavy and his work rate was just too low. But Parker was really good, using his movement and, working the body, landing good shots, climbing off the canvas twice to get that victory. And going back to what I was saying about Joshua, look at Joseph Parker's career. He's gone in against Joyce. He's gone in against White. He's gone in against Joshua. He's gone in against Wilder. He's gone in against so many top guys, but he's lost a lot of the time. But you take those losses, you learn from them, and then you come back and you have all of that experience. As long as you don't get beaten up and you lose your punch resistance, and you become a shot fighter. You take these hard, risky fights. You might take a loss, but ultimately you become a better fighter, and fighting the best enhances your legacy. So yeah, good weekend. It'll be interesting to see where both go from here. And I've been talking about the heavyweight division a lot lately because it's obviously the most glamour division of the sport. It always has been. And it really, really does my head in when people just criticise it and say how bad this heavyweight era is. Because this era is very good. You've got top fighters in Tyson Fury, who's an unorthodox giant, who's produced some of the most memorable moments in boxing history, you could say. Climbing off the canvas against Wilder in that 12th round. I've very, very rarely seen a fighter take such a devastating shot in such a decisive moment, get up and come back that strong instantly. Maybe you could say Larry Holmes against Ernie Shavers, or Razor Ruddock against Tommy Morrison. There are a few, but it's a classic moment, dethroning the long reigning champion in Vladimir Klitschko. You have Joshua, who's sold out stadiums, who's beaten an array of top fighters, a big puncher. You got a guy like Usyk, who's a little genius, a southpaw, one of the most skillful heavyweights of recent times. You've also got a formidable all-time puncher in Wilder. Adding guys like Andy Ruiz, Joseph Parker, Zhang, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Hrgovic. There's plenty of others as well that I haven't even named. This is a very competitive era, and I wish people would stop moaning about it. It's been frustrating with the big fights not happening in the last few years, but we've had Wilder versus Fury, like a classic trilogy. We've had Usyk against Joshua, a major fight. Joshua against Klitschko, an all-time classic. Joshua Ruiz. This is an exciting era. All you have to do is go back 10 years and look at the Klitschko era when it was guys like, no disrespect, but Eddie Chambers and Hasim Rahman, like 10 years past his best. That was an era that wasn't very good. This is a very good era. Maybe not the greatest, maybe not the worst. And the best fights haven't yet happened. We haven't seen Joshua versus Wilder, Fury versus Joshua. But I think we will by the time it's done. So I think people are a little too harsh on this era. It's been frustrating at times, and Fury has been the catalyst for that. However, I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. And it was a good weekend for heavyweight boxing, in my opinion.